Hello everyone, Max here with Fiction Rant to bring you a versus matchup. It's been a while, I know. In this matchup, I'm going to be comparing a bunch of space fighters from various universes and rank ordering them in order of power and effectiveness based on my usual breakdown of speed, weapons, defenses, and unique advantages. For the purposes of this video, I won't be going into numbers since this is all going to be assuming 1v1 matchups, and I won't consider tactics just to keep things simple. Also, I have a Ko-fi account now, so if you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description. I'll start with probably the most iconic space fighter ever, the X-Wing. Speed. X-Wings are hyperdrive equipped for fast and light travel and can accelerate at 3700 G without killing their pilots, benefits of their inertial dampers. Weapons. X-Wings come equipped with 4 laser cannons and proton torpedo launchers, a pair of them. The laser cannons are powerful enough to destroy fighters, but are basically useless against heavy starship armor like on capital ships. The torpedoes are powerful enough to damage capital ships and bypass ray shields, but are really slow-moving and relatively easy to intercept. Defenses. X-Wings come equipped with light armor, and shields, more importantly, allowing them to withstand all small arms fire and glancing hits from starship weapons. Unique advantages. Each X-Wing carries a single astromech droid in addition to its pilot, which can help the pilot with navigation, situational awareness, and even make minor repairs for mid-flight. For now, I'll put the X-Wing in the middle of the list and I'll rank the other fighters as we go, as better or worse as we go. Number 2, the Danube-class Runabout from Star Trek. This one is a little bit of a stretch to actually call it a fighter, but for the most part, Star Trek just doesn't do fighters. Even the Peregrine-class fighters we get to see from time to time are actually fully crewed starships. They're just relatively small compared to the hero ships. We do get to see a more fighter-like ship in the Riemann fighter from Nemesis, but we don't really get to see what they can do. So I'm going to reference the Runabout instead, as it serves in the fighter role several times throughout Deep Space Nine in particular. Speed. Runabouts have their own warp drives capable of achieving warp 5 and are capable of rapidly achieving full impulse, which is 1/4 light speed, though how rapidly isn't very clear, so their rate of acceleration is hard to determine. But they do have inertial dampers, so their rate of acceleration isn't capped. Weapons. Runabouts come with 4 phaser ray emitters and a photon torpedo launcher. These are all lighter variants of the weapons equipped on capital ships, but are still quite capable of inflicting damage on most targets, no matter the size. And they're also computer targeted and ultra precise, can fire in basically any direction and at extreme range. Defenses. Runabouts come equipped with deflector shields, capable of resisting hits from even capital ships for a short time. Unique advantages. Runabouts are large enough to have sleeping accommodations and include food replicators, a transporter, a tractor beam. The onboard computer and sensor suite is also sophisticated enough to fully control the ship even in combat, albeit somewhat clumsily. If even a child just gives the voice command to do so, that a kid can be sitting there and say, "Protect me, destroy the bad guys," and the computer will do its best. The Danube-class Runabout is definitely more than a match for an X-Wing, and short of landing a proton torpedo hit or ramming it, I really don't think that an X-Wing could actually inflict any real damage on a Runabout. Next up, the Viper 2 from Battlestar Galactica. I'm talking about the Viper 2 because it's the one that we see the most of. There's more advanced variants out there, but the main elements are all the same. Speed. Viper 2s are pretty quick by modern standards, but they're limited by the fact that inertial dampers don't exist in Battlestar Galactica, so they're limited to just bursts of 10G acceleration. That said, they can also perform 0G maneuvers, so they can pivot and maneuver regardless of their direction of travel, which is really cool to see. Weapons. Viper 2s have 2 30mm mass-accelerated cannons that fire directly forward, rapid fire. They kind of take the World War II approach of just get a lot of bullets out there and hope that some of them hit stuff. Defenses. Basically none. Just try not to get hit. Unique advantages. Also none. Viper 2s don't really have anything that makes them particularly formidable. They're just cool. They're basically just a hyper-advanced fighter jet. A Viper 2 absolutely cannot take on an X-Wing. Next up, Gunstar from The Last Starfighter. Speed. No idea. In context, Gunstars are fairly massive fighters, and nothing in the movie gives me any indication of how fast they can actually move, but they do demonstrate the ability to perform 0G maneuvers, which allows them to pivot in place and make unpredictable movements. There's also no indication one way or the other if they have inertial dampers, but based on what they actually do in the movie, I'm going to guess that they do in fact have them. Weapons. Gunstars are heavily armed with turret-style weaponry that is manually targeted and fired by a gunner, including a pair of forward-facing lasers, photon bolts, and particle beams. Defenses. Unclear. Gunstars seem capable of taking a hit, but they don't really seem to have shields. And the enemies that we see them fight in the movie tend to do a lot of waiting around and giving the Gunstar gunner a chance to shoot at them before they actually attempt an attack of their own. It's kind of like one of those House of the Dead on-rail shooters that you see in the movie theater where it's like, okay, it's going to come toward you. You have 4 seconds to take this out before it hurts you. Little unrealistic, but it's an awesome movie. Go check it out. Unique advantages. The I win button. The Death Blossom. Granted, this isn't really a standard feature of all Gunstars, but it's silly fun, so I'm including it. Basically, when activated, the Gunstar spins in place, wildly firing every weapon it has in every direction, and hopefully destroying all enemies in the process. In reality, this really wouldn't actually be all that effective and would be super easy to counter because you can just fly away from it, but it's cool and it's fun, so who cares? Also, a downside of the Death Blossom is once it's over, you basically just cooked your own systems, you're dead in the water, and all your guns are gone. For the matchup, I think that a Gunstar could take on an X-Wing due to their much heavier armaments and ability to take advantage of zero-G maneuvers, but the effective range and precision of the Runabout phasers would give them the edge and allow the Runabout to beat the Gunstar. That said, I'm fairly certain that the X-Wing is a lot faster than a Gunstar, so a cunning pilot would be able to take them out. They just have to, do it before the Gunstar can just barrage them with a ton of firepower. Star Fury from Babylon 5. Speed. Star Furies don't seem to be able to accelerate all that fast, and they don't have inertial dampers, but like the Gunstar and Viper, they can perform zero-G maneuvers. Weapons. Star Furies are actually quite heavily armed. They come standard with 6 pulse cannons, and they have hardpoints that allow them to equip as many as 8 additional weapons or pieces of equipment. Defenses. Star Furies aren't actually all that durable, and they don't have shields. They do, however, have escape pods, so if the Star Fury is going to be destroyed, you can at least save the pilot. Unique advantages. Star Furies carry a grappler and can travel via already open hyperspace corridors, but they can't actually open the corridors themselves. Alright, who could they take on? I don't think that a Star Fury could take on a Gunstar or an X-Wing, but they could absolutely beat a Viper too. Puddle Jumper from Stargate Atlantis. Speed. How fast they can ultimately go is really unclear, but using the same kind of engine pods, other ships have been able to achieve relativistic speeds. So Puddle Jumpers absolutely carry inertial dampers, but they don't do all that much zero-G maneuvering. Weapons. Only one type. Puddle Jumpers carry drone weapons. These are guided missiles which can penetrate shields and just one-shot any fighter-sized vessels and inflict heavy damage upon larger vessels. They don't have any phasers or anything like that. They just have missiles, and it's one weapon, but it's a really good weapon. Defenses. Puddle Jumpers carry cloaking devices, which can be reconfigured to act as shields, but by default and for the purposes of this comparison, they're unshielded. Unique advantages. Puddle Jumpers have no faster-than-light capabilities, but they are designed to be able to travel via Stargate and even include remote dialing equipment, which is capable of connecting to any nearby Stargate. I think that Puddle Jumpers actually have a shot at the title on this. I think they might be at the top of the pile. They have less cool features than a Runabout, but they only really need one shot to finish any other ship on this list, and their cloaking pretty much ensures that they will always get the first shot. Next up, the Pyro GX from the Descent video game series, which if you are familiar with my series, you know I love Descent, so this one shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Speed. Even with afterburners, just not all that fast. A few 100 miles per hour at most. But from Descent 2 onward, you also get a hyperdrive, which can teleport the ship from planet to planet. The Pyro GX does have 6 degrees of freedom with its movement and takes full advantage of zero-G environment. In fact, when it's not even firing its engines, it'll actually just sit there, and when you're not actively accelerating, you will slow down and stop. It's kind of weird how it all ends up working out, but yeah, super maneuverable, not very fast. Weapons. All of them. Descent is a Doom clone, and as such, you can carry some number of every weapon in the game at the same time. All these weapons are really only effective at short to mid range, however. Defenses. The Pyro GX has basically no armor, but pretty hefty shields, which can be recharged by picking up residual energy from destroyed enemies. Unique advantages. The Pyro GX is probably the best ship on this list for close quarters fighting, and seems to be specialized for fighting inside mines and around cities and large structures. So how does it do? I think that the Pyro GX could take on any ship of this list if they happen to be inside of a mine. Unfortunately, this is mostly a space setting contest, so I think that the Pyro could take on the Viper 2, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is just so much faster. Faster even than most of the weapons that the Pyro can actually carry, and it just wouldn't be able to keep up. I think it would still take out the Viper 2, just because the Viper 2 weapons just aren't that good, and they're fairly short range, so you'd have to get close enough for the Pyro to use its own weapons, in which case it could take you out. Longsword Fighter from Halo, not to be confused with Pelican Dropship. Speed. Longswords don't seem to have inertial dampers, and they fly like aircraft, not taking advantage of zero-G maneuvers. Weapons. Longswords can carry a variety of weapons, but ultimately they basically all boil down to autocannons, missiles, and bombs. None are extraordinarily destructive by sci-fi standards. Defenses. Longswords are unshielded, but they have some decent armor. Unique advantages. None. Longswords are basically just fighter jets in space. So how does it do? Well, we finally have some more love for the Viper 2. I think a Viper 2 could absolutely beat a longsword. Their weapons are absolutely powerful enough to destroy the longsword, and they're faster and more nimble and take advantage of zero-G maneuvers. Next up, the Pteranodon from Orville. Speed, very quick. The Pteranodon has inertial dampers and can take advantage of zero-G maneuvers, but mostly flies like an aircraft. Weapons. A pair of forward-facing pulse guns, which are good for taking down fighters and basically nothing else. Defenses. Really light shielding, and that's it. Unique advantages. None? The Pteranodon is more of a prototype than anything, and it hasn't had that much time to shine yet, so we'll see what they come up with. As for the matchup, I think that the Pteranodon could take on the Viper and the Longsword, no problem, but its close engagement range would put it in striking distance of the Pyro GX, and it's just outclassed by everything else on this list. Finally, the Hammerhead from Space Above and Beyond. Speed. No inertial dampers, so acceleration is limited for the Hammerhead, but they can take advantage of zero-G maneuvers. Weapons. 2 railguns, 1 in front, 1 in back, plus an additional 6 hardpoints for equipping special equipment and missiles. Unless specifically outfitted with things like torpedoes, the Hammerhead is really only a threat to other fighters in a similar class. Defenses. Armor. No shields. Unique advantages. None. Again, this is basically just a fighter jet in space. That said, I do think the Hammerhead would be able to take on the Viper 2 because it can fire forward and backward while being able to maneuver in a similar way, and it's a heavier fighter and all that. I think it would lose to the Pteranodon, though, because the Pteranodon is significantly quicker, and it's plenty hard enough to take it out. And there's my list. Let me know in the comments if I've over or underestimated the capabilities of any of these fighters. Also let me know if I forgot any important fighters and where you think they'd land on this hierarchy. Again, I have a link to my Ko-fi account in the description if you want to support the channel, and until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you.